Dustin Rayburn is also known as Dusty Ray Bottoms, a contestant from season 10 of RuPaul's Drag Race. In episode 3 of that season, Dusty revealed the shocking story of conversion therapy and exorcism. Now, Dusty's story is part of a new film, Conversion, screening in Chicago this Thursday with an after party at Roscoe's. Dustin, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Let's go ahead and talk about episode 3 of season 10 on RuPaul's Drag Race.
Oh God.
Was it that situation, when you were talking to Blair and how it just naturally came up, or were you thinking, I'm going to find a way to bring this up because this is part of my story?
Uh, it was part of my story, and that's what we were talking about in the workroom, and that was my moment to talk about it. And so I seized the day and put my scare of religion and religious things aside and went for it and shared that on national television.
And for maybe people who haven't seen that particular episode or don't know, maybe give them a little bit of insight of what your journey was and what we might see in this film.
Yeah. So in the workroom on Drag Race, we were talking about our relationships with our family and our coming out stories with religion and how our families and religion reacted to that. And that I told that when I came out, I went through an exorcism because my family from religion thought that I could have been possessed by a gay demon, and so they wanted to be sure that they could get rid of that.
As far as sharing your journey, because obviously I'm sure the DMs just started coming in from people who had gone through something similar or people who wanted just to message you, about that experience.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, every time I would talk about first of all, before I went on to Drag Race, I didn't know that what I went through was called conversion therapy. I came out to my family and went to a church and was exercised and met with counselors and did all this breaking down of who you are conversations and stuff. So every time I would talk about this situation to people, they would kind of give me like this weird smile and like shake their head because they couldn't sympathize with me from what I've gone through because they haven't gone through it. So when I shared my story on Drag Race, that's when I started getting Me Too messages. I've gone through this. I know someone. I know someone who went through this and didn't survive it, and all sorts of things. So it was literally my first full circle moment was sharing that on Drag Race, and it's so crazy because there was a filmmaker by the name of Zach Miners who happened to be in my hometown who had recently just come out, and he was in a bar and heard me speak about this on Drag Race. And he reached out to me and asked when I was in town for Louisville Pride if I would be interested in making a 5-minute PSA on conversion therapy for an organization I'm a board member of now, Banned Conversion Therapy Kentucky. So I agreed to do that. And when I came down, we just started talking about my experience and my background. And when I was talking to Zach Miners, it was the very first time that I was actually talking to another survivor, and it was just very comfortable. And I knew that sharing my story with him, my story would be handled with care. And this 5-minute PSA turned into a full-length feature documentary with other survivors across North America and Canada. And it's just wild. It turned into this huge thing that we're really excited to share with the world and with Chicago this week.
And with Chicago this week, but about 700,000 LGBTQ plus people have gone through conversion therapy. I mean, even your story, this is not something that like, oh, look, this happened 100 years ago or 50 years ago. It happened in recent time. It's still happening. I mean, this is, a big issue that needs to be addressed.
Absolutely. People hear about conversion therapy and they hear about some of the things that happen in conversion therapy, and they think that it's this old, outdated 1940s, 50s, like psycho thing. But no, it's still happening. It's very barbaric. Some people do not survive this, and that's why it's very important that we are spreading the news on this and getting the word out. And hopefully, those young kids who can see this film can see that they are fine just as they are and to stay strong and to avoid any kind of topic like this.
Let's go back to when you were a kid and, your dad was a pastor, your grandfather opened up churches. So you grew up in a very religious household and, just that experience of growing up.
You know, I just I would always be from a very young age. I knew that it was wrong. I talk about this in the documentary that one of the very first rules that I heard about Christianity and God was like I knew Jesus loved me. I knew the song Jesus loves me. This I know. Like that's the first thing you know. Then the second thing I knew that was homosexuality was wrong. And there was a reason why I had to know that at a young age is because everyone around me knew I was very effeminate and had to be a gay kid. And so, secrets out, you know? And so, yeah, I knew at a young age, and I feel, my family had to as well. That's why I was hearing these things.
As far as maybe your appearance on Drag Race and maybe some of the things that you watch now, because I go back to my childhood and kind of having those questions and not really seeing anybody visible. There was, Will and Grace got on when I was in high school, and of course, growing up, you didn't really have any images of what gay friends look like, what gay couples look like,
Right.
to see representation on TV, especially some of the younger kids maybe don't have access to, their parents may not have gotten them a phone. They may not have friends they could talk to in school. I mean, it's a very isolating time. And if your family is trying to get you to change who you are, it's just such a difficult thing without seeing at least some kind of glimmer of hope as far as some of the representation in media.
100%. Representation is so important. Uh, I luckily, I seeing it was just so very hard growing up in a religious household because even for the times that I was old enough to step out on myself and try to live my truth, you are so bombarded in the back of your head with all these things that just have been ingrained in you. So like the journey is not easy when you're able to make that step to commit to yourself and to live your true self, like that there's a lot of unpacking to do and there's a lot of unprogramming that you have to like learn again,
And especially now, let's fast forward to your story now. You're married, and congratulations. You and you have completed this thing because I heard you talk a little bit in the film about a prayer that you used to say as a kid and having kind of that full circle moment of waiting, praying for that special somebody. Talk a little bit about that and being able to say that during your wedding.
uh my family growing up, especially when I would stay over at my grandparents' house, prayer before bed was always a thing that we did together, and then that you would also do by yourself before you go to bed. And in our group prayers, I would always hear my father, my grandfather, my grandmother pray that for the lady, the young girl out there who is for me, so God watch over her and to make sure she is safe until we meet and like all this stuff. And I'd hear this prayer my whole life, then praying for this person, this girl. But like I know that those prayers like had to be heard and they were for my Mark. And it's just so wild because if anyone were to tell me that Mark and I aren't supposed to be together, and if it wasn't like the universe, like how it all happened and everything, it would just be completely wild to me and so untrue. And so I know that the universe heard those things and it had to be for him.
It had to be for that particular reason. What would it have done, for you, for young Dustin growing up, seeing somebody like you now on television and seeing your story? Would that have maybe changed your outlook on yourself or maybe your self-acceptance? We talked a little bit about representation, but seeing who you have become, but seeing, young Dustin being able to see this person.
Absolutely. Especially seeing, absolutely, growing up and having such a strict, hardcore family, I just really never thought there would be room or space for there to be love and for me to be who I am all at the same time. And to get to where we are now and to see that like I have my beautiful husband and like I can still have a relationship with my family and it's not the complete end of the world like I thought it was. Like, yeah, things got scary and things were hard, but things were never to the extent that I thought they would be. And I am lucky that way because others don't have that experience and it's far way worse. But just to know like how hardcore my family was and how they've turned and how we can like coexist together is huge. And that would have been so big for me to see as a kid, to see that that is a possibility out there because I didn't think that could happen at all.
And it happened, and it did happen. You're coming to Chicago for the Chicago premiere of this. Tell me a little bit about you coming here to perform, and your connection to our city.
Absolutely. Well, we have our big premiere Thursday night in Chicago. I believe it starts at 7 o'clock.
7 o'clock, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you, thank you. And right after, my very best friend Alexis Michelle from season 9 of RuPaul's Drag Race and I are getting together at Roscoe's right down the street. And at 9 o'clock, we're doing our show, an hour show called Good Judy, Bad Judy. And it is a leave it all on the stage kind of show. We live sing together. We do a lot of duets, and it's a good time. We're really excited to share it with you all.
That's awesome. I want to ask you one more question about RuPaul's Drag Race. You just hosted the premiere of season 15 premiere
Yeah.
down in Louisville. Um, your reaction to the very first episode?
I loved it so much. I had so much fun with it. I honestly, when all the promos came out and everything, I was like, whoa, this is a lot of girls. And it was just really hard for me to, I don't know, connect because you just get a little tidbit. And then seeing these two episodes back to back and getting to see all these girls, they are like claws out this year. They are so sharp. They're coming for each other. They're turning looks. Like, I'm really excited about this. Major shout out to my New York sister, Jax, because that jump roping with her hair,
Iconic.
she
Iconic.
that was so great. I just loved it. Like, I was all smiles all night. I was so impressed. And I don't even think Irene deserved to go home first that night. Like, that mug, that face, she won that first challenge. It was just so good. And then Mistress, I love Mistress. That paint is everything. I think Mistress and Robin Fierce, they have like the paint of the season.
And two people that I did not know about so much about before, Sugar and Spice, but now like obsessed.
Yeah, they are something else. They are really, really funny.
That is awesome. Well, let's continue to watch this. Thank you so much for coming to Chicagoland this Thursday. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Conversionbeach.com is where you can go ahead and get those tickets. And don't forget the after party is taking place at Roscoe's on Thursday as well, too. Dusty Ray Bottoms, have a great time in Chicago.
Thank you, Rudy. I'll see you all soon.
See you soon.